Okay. So let's just sink into this moment. Let the stories of your day just spin themselves out. You don't have to stop them. All you have to do is release your investment in them. And they'll just spin around a few times and fall to the floor. Okay. So let's step into meditation. Attention at the forehead and crown. Let your eyes fall to a spot on the floor in front of you. And become the watcher of your breath. As simple as all of that sounds, to actually do it is revolutionary for most people. Because you're going to do that and nothing else. You're just going to be with the pure experience of that, and you're not going to ask it to provide you anything that doesn't automatically come with it. No substitutions, no side of fries. Just what's here to be seen right here, right now. Let's spend some time with that. Nothing to do about that lingering energy. Just be with the breath. Let the energy take care of itself. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Here you are, in this eternal moment. United with your breath. And whatever else happens to be arising as a remark of this moment. When people show up for class, they're like a vase filled with all these colorful things. Meditation is the emptying of that vase, so that you can truly make use of all the space in there. You can feel the space in that vase that you are on every breath. And you can feel when it's filled with things. Because as you try to open up into the breath instead, you light up a bunch of silliness from your day. But every breath you take, because you've been trained, the contents of that vase can get animated and cleaned out. Animated because energy is entering into them through the breath, through the attention. They're getting stirred. You can feel it. It's the thing that keeps you from meditating every day. That moment of discomfort. But they get cleaned out because upon being animated, you don't play with them. You've learned to just breathe. So the stuck parts, they come to life for a second, and then they resolve themselves. You get the surface level stuff at the beginning. But if you keep opening up, if you keep making space, if you keep bringing your present moment awareness to the practice of your breath, deeper things get cleaned out. Things you've had so long you don't even know they're there. They'll start to pop up on the screen of the mind. A discomfort, an intolerance. Something that just makes you go, God, I have to be done right now. I have to get up right now and do anything but sit here. Or I'm going to sit here because I said I would, but I'm going to just think about 16 billion other things. But if instead of escaping, you can just let it be exactly what it is, give it its space to resolve, and don't play with it, it will resolve itself. You can do more for yourself this way than the most brilliant counselor can do for you. You just have to be someone who will do it. All right, I'm going to shut up for a while. Back to the breath. Be with whatever arises, but don't play with it. Don't build upon it. Don't theorize upon it. You be the watcher of your breath. The arising is the arising, and you are the watcher of your breath. Do that now. Nothing to shelter, nothing to protect. Let your awakened breath touch every facet of your inner being. Nowhere's off limits. Nothing to hide. How transparent can you be with yourself? As you breathe in, breathe out, and nothing else. Stay awake. Don't let comfort put you to sleep. Attend this exact moment with every cell of your being as you breathe in, breathe out, and nothing else. If you're in an extreme of feeling, you're not there. If you're focusing so hard that you're tense, you're not there. If you're so relaxed that you feel heavy and sleepy, you're not there. If you're feeling those things, you're holding on to some story. If you're feeling those things, there's an attachment at play. Whatever state you're in, find the center of that state. If you're stuck in sleepiness, at the center of it, there is a seed of perfect tensile balance. Don't fight the sleepiness. Just yield to the seed at its center. Nothing to resist. Just find its center, give it your attention, and let it expand as you watch your breath. If instead you're feeling tension and anxiety, find its center. Close to its center, you'll find its opposite, which will be a sleepy relaxation. But at the center of that will be a poised, tensile balance. A little seed of perfect light, perfect feeling. And just allow your curiosity and interest take you deeper into that seed as you watch your breath in this moment. The true moment isn't something you have to escape. It's the eye of the hurricane. If you're feeling those extremes, you're too close to the walls. Get back to the eye. It's okay if it feels weak in the beginning. Water it with your attention and it'll grow. It's okay if it feels empty. Find your comfort there. Let that be okay. Now that some of you have found it, how much of yourself can you give to it? How absolute can you make it? How transparent can you be? How open and transparent can you be with this moment? How available can you be to this living moment? You give yourself to that, and you will have finally found your place in this universe. How unconditionally available can you be to this moment right now? Stay open. There's a teaching I want to share with you but I don't want you to think about it a lot. You can rip it apart to shreds afterwards, but I just want you to receive it cleanly for now, so just stay open. We talked about finding the center of something and watering it with your attention so that it can grow. We've talked about that a lot, We've talked about how you place your attention on something and it expands, it just becomes bigger. And meditation, we're not allowing our attention to be directed on automatic pilot anymore. And so we actually gain some control over how we feel, over our life. When you step into the present moment, you're taking your attention off of all the stories you said yes to today, all the little plants and weeds that wanted to get watered by your attention today. And it's not an easy transition, is it? The reason it's not easy is because you said yes to it. And your yeses matter. Whatever you say yes to in life, whether it's a person, a feeling, a story, a direction in life, whatever you say yes to and act upon, you get more of. Simple as that. Sometimes when you're getting more of it, you come to realize it wasn't something you wanted. But the things you say yes to are the things that expand. Yes is a simple shift in your willingness. We've talked about that before too, haven't we? Whatever you apply your willingness to, whether it's your spiritual work or your life's work or idle gossip or just whatever story is floating around in your life at the time, you're telling life what you want. And life gives you more of it. The mechanisms of that are debatable. But if you pay attention long enough, you notice. Similarly, the things you say no to, you create barriers. Your no is, well, imagine you were asleep and you were dreaming. And there was a direction in the dream that you said no to very strongly. That no would live there like a symbol. When you turned in that direction, there'd be a feeling there that makes it harder to go in that direction. Or if you were asleep dreaming, there would be maybe a roadblock or some kind of symbol of something you would have to overcome if you wanted to go in that direction, because you had said no. Your yeses and your nos govern your entire life. Now, they're mostly governed by the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. But as we grow up a bit, we start to attach more pleasure to things that are temporarily painful because we can see a bigger picture. But it's our yeses and our nos that create the pathways of least and most resistance in our life. You know, the more you say no to a career, the harder it is to get into it. I see people actually who, over the years as a spiritual teacher, I see people who will say no to coming to class. And it'll be maybe for some small reason. The reality is they're just not feeling it. And so they say no. And totally fine, totally their prerogative, right? We've all been there. I've been there too. But then what I'll see happen next is when they're ready to say yes, something much stronger will get in the way of their ability to come. I've seen this we're talking for decades. I've been teaching like this and working with students very closely. And you see it over and over again. That no has a reverberation that starts to actually condense into things like your car broke down and so you couldn't come. Or, you were going to come in person and now all of a sudden you've got a cold or something like that. And the moral of that story is not, so you should always come to class. That's not it at all. I believe in freedom. The moral of that story is understand why the roadblocks are happening. And push through them if you need to. Be careful what excuses you use to not pursue things that you want. Again, this is not like, please don't ever feel guilty about not coming to class. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is understand your no's, set up blocks. And when those blocks appear the next time, understand how they got there. Understand that there's probably something that you have been doing that has been a rejection of that thing. And because your no's have credence, they'll set up obstacles for you. It's okay. I do it all the time. Not with meditation, but I do it with many other things in my life. It's just about taking responsibility for the roadblock that comes up later and crawling around it. With me, it happens. I run a lot of statistics in my life, and whenever you step away from something like that for a while, it almost starts to look more toxic than it is. And so when you go back to it, for me, it'll be like a million emails of things that need to happen right away that keep me from doing what I need to do. And so you usually end up with this very uncomfortable moment of having to push through it because you will have put it off so many times. There have been so many times where your mind and your heart said no. So you want freedom of movement. And that freedom of movement just means you own your own obstacles and you understand how they got there. So Bob, why don't you let me know what your question is? You can unmute yourself or you can ask it in the chat.
So if the
Right. Okay, I see your point. That no is actually a resistance of giving something your clean attention. So what you actually are saying yes to when you say no is a storyline of adversity in light of the object of your attention. So you're actually dreaming obstacles into the mix. You know, like for me, I think the way that usually comes up is that no is basically an acknowledgement of a toxicity that I am attaching to some task I have to do or some person. Uh, and if I allow that to go too far, then I can create a situation where the mountain just gets bigger in order to kind of get past that hurdle and do what I need to do. Or it'll be something I have to do on my computer and I will find that my internet goes out. Or I'll find that my computer just, I can't get the software to work properly. Right. That's right. Yeah. Yep. So I'm just going to repeat that for the recording because this doesn't come through. He's saying it's kind of like riding a bike, where, when you're learning to ride a bike, there'll be a hole, or for me, it was actually a bush, that every time I saw the bush, I would veer into the bush because I was so afraid I was going to veer into the bush. So, yes, whatever you place your attention on, you water that moment into existence. But in general, what I want you guys to notice, like Bob, you're somebody who you attended your first meditation class with me by literally getting off of a train wreck. Like you were in a train accident and you like got off the train and I think caught a cab when you maybe weren't even supposed to get off the train, just because you knew you were going to make it to that class. A statement like that to life sets up the next moment. That is you showing life, here's my list of priorities. This is going to be top priority for me. And you're one of the few students. I mean, my God, I've probably been teaching you well over a decade at this point, right? When you set things up that strongly, it's almost hard to get out of it. Yep. Yep. 15 years. So it's, another way to say all of this is, if you ever want to know what your priorities are, all you have to do is make a list of all the things that you did that week and what things you didn't do in order to do that thing. The things you said yes to is your internal ideology. It is what you carry with you. And you'll find that that magnifies on the screen of life. And if you want to change that list, usually you have to first change your actions. And changing those actions is uncomfortable. It's about as uncomfortable as sitting down and those first 10 minutes or so in a class like this, where you're just trying to make a shift happen. At some point you get to a place where, and I'm just going to use this class as an example. But again, it's not that this needs to be your number one priority in life. I understand that people come here for different reasons. But I'm teaching this class, so this is my example. It's the difference between deciding once and for all that being able to slip cleanly into the meditative state is like a number one priority for you. And so you put it on the list every single day and you never miss it. Then when you come to a class like this, you sit down and you instantly can just open up right into it. And the flow of whatever I'm putting forward, you can feel it. Your body even starts to learn to interpret it. You'll be able to connect with the teachings much better. But what most people do is, because they want to prioritize this, part of them knows this is important, they keep showing up. because I can take you and I can make you shift your attention in a way that you'll have the experience. And so it keeps it alive in your life until you can come to a point where it's a number one priority for you. But when you go back to your life, it's hard. It's hard to get yourself to do the work. Not all of you, some of you do it, but most of you probably have a hard time making yourself really, really practice this, really bring it into your moments in life that you're living. And so when you come here with kind of a heavy bunch of priorities on top of that one priority. And so we spend the first 10 minutes just kind of slapping it out of your hand, slapping that out of your hand. Okay, let this enliven and let it let go until you get to this priority and you can really let it shine. It doesn't matter what your priority is. I'm not here to tell you that it's more moral or more ethical to have this priority versus that priority. Even if I believe that, I'm not here to tell you that. What I'm here to say is most of us lie to ourselves about what our true priorities are. If you really want to know your priorities, write down all of your yeses and nos. What did you say yes to and what did you say no to? In any given day, those are your real priorities. And I think some of us, need to look at that list and say, is this what I mean for my priorities to be? Or did I just get stuck in something? Did I just get addicted to a certain way of moving through my day? And if that's the case, I think knowledge is power, It becomes an easier sell to make sure that if you want to be a writer, that you write every day. If you want to be a meditator, that you meditate every day. If you want to be a mother, that you find a way to put your children first wherever you can. If you want to be anything, that you actually prioritize it over other things. But first, you have to be able to admit to yourself when you're not. As a teacher, I can always tell roughly what someone's priorities are spiritually by how hard it is to get them into a space where things are flowing. There's a moment in any class where I can feel that a bunch of you have kind of slipped in to a more spacious state. Prior to that, it's usually a little uncomfortable. But it's that system of yeses and nos. The price of freedom is responsibility. And that's not the same as saying that everything is your fault, but the price of freedom is you have to live as if it is. You have to live always saying, what's my role in creating this? What priorities am I holding on to that made me interact with this in a way that this happened? And if you can do that, you will find that you can become freer and freer and freer every day, because you become aware of where you actually are, and that leads you to taking action to moving to where you want to be, to watering different things in your life, to rearranging your system of yeses and nos. Are there any questions about that? This week, I want you to start looking at everything in your life through that lens. Look at relationships where certain obstacles keep coming up, and see if you can find the past yeses and nos. Look at aspects of maybe your job or certain places you want to go. And it doesn't mean you're going to switch all your no's to yeses. Sometimes it means, I really don't want this. But sometimes it's something you really want and you're messing it up. And you need to know that too. And if you see something like that, My advice is figure out what the obstacle is and push right through it. If you do that, the next time there'll still be a little bit of an obstacle, but it'll be smaller, and you push through that and push through that and push through that until you've dusted off the link between you and that thing that you want to interact with. Whether it's meditation or your spouse or your job or your children. Take a look through just the simplicity of, what kind of attitude have you thrown at it? What kind of yeses and nos? All right, Chelsea's asking, is there a way to feel seasons of life? Like different things take priority at different times. And if you're really open and clear, you can tell which focus will come more easily at that moment. Well, there are all kinds of systems set up for that. There are astrological systems. There are systems that just come with the turning of the seasons. But there's something I'm reading in this that I just want to make really clear. This is not a moral teaching. This is not a right or wrong teaching. It's okay if something important takes a back seat in a certain season, as long as you understand that that's why it isn't growing. As long as you can just own that that's why it isn't growing. I made a choice. And I'm either okay with that or I'm going to push past it, whatever barrier I created. But the truth is, you have the right to choose your list of priorities. And you will often have to say no to something that is ultimately important. I have to do it sometimes too. If it's something that you really, really want to do but just can't, you'll find that just like that feeling is very different from the feeling of, yeah, I could do it, but I'm just so over that I don't want to do it. It's like, look, I just don't want to be bothered. Those are two very different feelings. Those two feelings are going to have very different reflections on the screen of life. Sometimes you can't come to class. That doesn't mean you're going to lose your entire spiritual life. But if that reason for not coming is just like, I don't feel like it, you're going to find that if you do that a couple of times, it's going to get harder and harder for you to attend. Not because I say so. I'm just saying it because I've watched over the years people fall away for like 6 months at a time. And then it's like at one point they just push through the barrier and they come back because, it was doing good things for them. You don't owe it to me to come to these classes. You don't owe anybody any of that. It's just about recognizing like the causes and effects in your life. That's all. Mm-hmm. One isn't right and the other is wrong. It's not that. It's, why did I go splat on the ground? Because I jumped off the top of the building. Was that right or wrong? Well, did I need to jump off the top of the building? If I did, then it was right. And you'll find life never leaves you damned. If you've set up a difficult moment for yourself, it's just a matter of steps to get you to clear that. Let's see. Good, Sarah. I'm so glad. These things, it's funny, they're logical. They a little fall under the category of magical thinking, and yet I think we've all seen it happen enough, Like, even if you don't believe that it's some metaphysical activity, anybody can see that if you say, okay, like I'm someone that says no to parties all the time. And the more you do that, there are consequences for that. You get invited to less parties. You know, I mean, I think anybody can see that. You know, I am, it's one of my worst qualities, I think, is sometimes I go through phases where it's like I cannot bother to respond to a text chain or something like that. And it's not about right or wrong. It's just about what's done is mine. The consequences of that, I can't whine about it, you know? And most of that can be mended, You can pretty much apologize your way out of anything if you're sincere. I feel bad for people who don't know how to apologize. But I'd love for you to look at your life through this lens this week. Look through the lens of complete responsibility. All right? Already acknowledging that, yes, there are things you can't help. I get it. Yes, you're right. But I want you to look this week through a lens that takes responsibility anyways. And think of it through how you interacted with those moments and see the connections of how people are responding to you. And how does that link to the interactions you've had with them, even the quiet ones, even the ones where you didn't say anything wrong. Just in your head, you were just disgusted or annoyed. It's a feeling I know well. There's no shortage of reflections in my life of disgusted and annoyed. So again, it's, I don't mean to sit on any high cushion to tell you anything about yourselves. I'm just saying, know yourself. I know myself. I know what's mine. And you should too. All right, guys. Any other questions before I let you get back to your night? My 3-month-old baby watched you quietly this whole time. She is the sweetest baby in the world. And I'm sure she'll be an excellent meditator. All right, everybody. Have a great night. I will talk to you next week. My pleasure. Bye.